Oh, shit. Come on. Been having trouble. It says we're live. Okay. Good. All right. Open my chat. All right. Says we're live. Welcome from the Crossroads of America. Talk show about guns, politics, or anything else that crosses my mind. Answer questions from the audience, either in the chat or by email at rickslife@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. I got a Patreon page. I've got PayPal and all other stuff listed down in the information section below. So there we go. That's that. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot with my Patreon page. I guess I'm just no good. But anyway, first in the chat today is Jerry Parker, then MK Joe, and then Gun Loving Grandpa's here. They're starting to, that's it. So Raphael's here. So they're all starting to creep in. So we'll go off with my introduce my panel so far. Is Wheelchair Luke. How you doing?
How's it going, guys?
Then we got New York Outcast.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me.
And we got Jason Stewart.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, thanks for the invite, Rick.
Yep. Then we got Squibload.
Yep.
Good to see you. All right. As everybody's starting to trickle in, I got one topic. I got more than one topic, but my main topic, I said, how did I word it? Seems it's one big conspiracy. Tell me I am wrong. And it's more than one conspiracy. It's all one big, it's all a bunch. I mean, it seems strange. I know is coincidence a thing? But it seems strange when we want to get shit done. All of a sudden, we're getting a bunch of shootings everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You got stuff coming up. You got the Supreme Court making a decision on a 2A case right now. You know, this bullshit's up. Then all of a sudden, you know, they're putting in, and some of the states are doing 2A stuff. And all of a sudden, we're getting all this stuff to get the country worked up. You know, it just seems strange to me, coincidence, that when something happening, something else happens that sort of like put the dampers on it. I just find it really strange. I really do.
I don't see it strange, Rick. I think it's, at this point, it's become a pattern that anybody that's paying attention should be able to notice. And sure, you know, coincidence, but, you know, it's all in the odds. It's the same thing as your kid telling you some bullshit story on why they came home late. The more bullshit involved, the less likely it is. But anyway, I just personally think, you know, a lot goes on with our government that the average person doesn't know about, and a lot more happens on our soil that people know about. So not stating that it's all government sanctioned or this or that or anything like that, but I would just state I don't find it surprising at all. I think there's forces that try to control what happens within our country for the sake of our own good, according to them.
Yeah, I think the reason it falls in like a coincidence, you know what I mean, trying to get this and then there's shootings, there's not, that's because that's what the news chooses to report. There's 300 million plus people living in this country every day, and the news can only come up with one or two stories a day to push out there. So they pick and choose what they want to push their narratives, to lay the groundwork, to set up, you know, the next scandal or whatever they want. If they actually did real news and went out and reporting, they would have all kinds of stories about all kinds of subjects. But the news is nothing more now than completely tied in to Washington, D.C. There's really no news across the country unless it's for or against something coming out of Washington.
Yeah. Oh, Travis P11 just said had a shooting at the mall in Omaha, Nebraska right just now. Yeah, another gun-free zone staying violence-free. Coincidence. Another one, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, Rick, once again, I think you're watching way too much damn TV. Get away from the damn TV and quit watching these YouTube channels that tell you how to work an AR-15, which is about the easiest machine to run, and are just trying to get views by screaming government conspiracy. Dang. This stuff gets in your head, man.
Well, hey, now you say that. Here, I mean, I know you're all going to laugh at me, but take Sasquatch, Bigfoot, right? Everybody laughs and said it's true. But, I mean, there is thousands upon thousands of sightings, stories of what's happened to people around the world. It all can't be bullshit.
Well, people always tend to forget about, basically PR people, intelligence, counterintelligence. I mean, if you think we don't have a bunch of people dedicated to sending out misinformation, you're crazy. That's part of the deal. Misinformation can be as valuable as good information. There's a number of, it's a whole step process, but needless to say, some of this stuff we see is purely product that's been put out for us, whether it's interpreted however the news picks it up or some of the things that happen, whether there's another hand involved in some things. You can't just ignore that fact. It's throughout history.
Okay, let's just cut it down to what it is. These things happen every single day. Every single day. Some of the ones that maybe have, they're in bigger cities, there's bigger body counts, what have you. They're the ones that get more attention. We always talk about how many drive-bys happen in Chicago every night, and they don't report it the way they report when a mall gets shot up or something else like that. And when the news is trying to help one political side push an agenda, they're going to have these biased stories. They're going to be doing a lot of things that work in the favor, either for one party or against another. We've seen that for a long time. I was listening to the Scanner in Indianapolis Police Department Scanner. You can listen to it for free on the internet. Do you know that within 2 hours of that attack, of that mass murder at the FedEx ground terminal, there were 3 other shootings that the police responded to? Now, the news isn't going to report that. You can simply do the research for yourself by listening to a police scanner. How hard is that? The thing is, this stuff happens all the time, but the news picks and chooses what they want. Right now, they're trying to push an agenda, and that's what's going to happen. This has happened over and over and over again. As I can remember all the way back to the mid-'80s, this being something that the news would push. So this is nothing new.
Yeah, you got a good point. I must admit. You do.
And then our community is going to do this. You're going to have the people that cash in. Okay, we've got plenty of people that say they're pro 2A, but they're pro compensation before they're pro 2A. Okay, they're going to cash in on this. You're also going to have the gun rights organizations. They're out there. Oh, this is the biggest fight of our life. And I'm not saying you shouldn't support your gun rights organizations, but they're just as bad as the Republicans. They're like a necessary evil or the lesser of two evils. They really are. They're trying to cash in on this right now. So don't think that the people that are supposed to be on our side are not rubbing their hands together going, oh man, it's great. Because you got that YouTuber that wants to build views. You also have the YouTuber that's just trying to get information out there, right? And sometimes you can't tell the difference between the two. You have the gun rights organizations that are fighting the legal battles for us, but they're also filling their wallets too. Don't think they're not making money off of this. And sometimes you can't tell the difference between that either. And it's not an easy thing for us. We want to keep our rights. We want to push back and get more of our rights restored, not our privileges, our rights. But when you see this stuff, it gets discouraging. And yeah, when the news hypes this up, you've got another loser sitting in their mom's basement who goes, I want my 15 minutes of fame. And they're going to go out there and do that too. Any one of us could be famous forever if we went and did this stuff. But the difference is we're not psycho crazy like that. The problem is now you go down that path and then everybody wants to deflect and go, it's not the gun, it's not the person, it's mental health. Well, now if you take some pills because you're a little bit depressed, or you've ever gone to talk to a counselor because you've gone through a tragedy in your life, now you're on that list. So do you really want to deflect and blame it on mental health?
I understand what you're saying, but I do think that is not the main problem, but that is a part of the problem. As much as we hate to admit it, mental health in this country of ours, as great as it is pretty sad. You know, it still has a stigma to it today. You know?
I agree. I would state, even if you follow the mental health route, I wouldn't relate it to necessarily pills or this or that. I think there's just people are different. Some people are raised to lose and try harder. Some people are raised to lose and retaliate by trying to shoot everybody up. So there's a difference. And that's back to like values, families, things like that, mental stability. Realizing you're not the best thing since sliced bread. Everything is an ode to you. I mean, that goes back to an upbringing or a culture, in my opinion. So,
yeah. What else hasn't
not
helped?
necessarily pills.
What else hasn't helped? Everybody's been cooped up for a year because the government wants to break the curve in 2 weeks. It's been over 52 weeks now, and people are it's just saying. I mean, it is a part of the problem. I mean, then you got what's his name, that fucking goddamn British asshole. I mean, I don't know why people even listen to him. He's not even American. What's his name? Pierce Morgan or Morgan Pierce, whatever his fucking name is. You hear him this morning. Why don't you Americans just admit it about these mass murders? You just like guns more, and that's why you don't care about mass murders. No, we like our freedom.
If more were armed, there'd be less mass murders.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the way to solve that issue, in a sense, how they'd say mental health or whatever. Well, if more people were armed and stopped this shit when it started, it wouldn't be everywhere. There would be different reports, which the news probably wouldn't run nowadays because they don't want to show how a good guy stopped a tragedy from happening. So, or how the average mom defended herself dropping her kid off at school.
Yeah. Now, did I read? I read yesterday, but I haven't seen it since. But I haven't been like that shooting here in Indianapolis. That I read a report that one guy he pulled his gun out from his car and the guy shot him. Because he was going to try to shoot the guy back, but the guy with the rifle shot the guy with the gun. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard. But
they were talking about.
Yeah, go on.
They were talking about it that night. However, there's been a lot of they haven't been as forthcoming as they normally are. I don't think this tragedy or this atrocity fits their narrative right now. So I think that's why they're not keeping it from us because it's a conspiracy. They're not pushing it the way they normally would because I don't think it fits their agenda. But yeah, that they were talking about it that night. But here's the thing. All right. FedEx has the right to tell their employees you can't bring a gun in here. You might have a concealed carry permit in Indiana and you can carry it, but you can't. So you leave it in your vehicle because the law protects you from that. Or in a lot of states, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
But what if they said you can conceal carry here or you can open carry here? If that guy used to work there and he knew that there were lots of people in there and lots of people had guns, some concealed, some open, he wouldn't have gone there. He wouldn't have gone there because he wouldn't, and although you could argue, well, what if it's suicide by cop or suicide by concealed carry? I suppose, But how far would he have gotten if more people had the opportunity, not be forced to be armed? This is like the whole, allowing the staff at a school to be armed if they choose, not twisting their arm, but allowing them to do it if they volunteer to do it. You make these places hardened targets, you're going to see these people go to wherever that's still not permitted, or you're going to see this stuff dwindle down. I'm not saying it's going to end, but it's going to be less likely. And when it does, they're going to be able to respond faster.
Yeah. But even if that guy was shot trying to help, I mean, personally, myself, in a situation like that, I'd rather die trying than cowering in the corner hoping the guy doesn't see me and still shoots me. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know.
Well, you was mentioning that Pierce Morgan guy, and I thought you was going to say something else when you quoted him. He said, "We just like our guns," or whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of look at it. You got to realize the point. America does like its violence. It does like its guns. Look at all your favorite movies. Okay. Look at all the favorite TV shows. Guns and violence catches our attention. Look at like the Thug Life. Look at like I'm not big on all the rap videos, but just look at rap videos or that part of our culture or whatever. Gang banging and guns. Gang banging and guns influences a lot of young minds. Young minds, hopefully, they grow up and now they're older minds. But this country has always got a fascination with violence and guns. The good guy, the bad guy, the cop, the robber, the cowboys, the Indians. That's just part of our culture here. You can't just all of a sudden blame it on something, you know what I mean, that's evolved to where we are today. You have to deal with it. And if you took away all the guns and you took away all anything else, like there was, let's go back a couple hundred years, we'd be shooting each other with bows and arrows. We'd be beating each other in the head with rocks and clubs. Hell, the first two brothers ever born on this planet, the one killed the other one. This is part of life. Okay. The more people you crowd into a smaller space, the more violence you'll have. I mean, this is nothing new. This is the history of the world. And you got to break it down even farther. It's always the weak versus the strong. That's human nature. Just because CNN and NBC want to say, oh, it's a pandemic of gun violence or whatever, they're full of shit. We are what we are. We have our own culture that we, the American people, created, not CNN News and not Facebook.
Yeah. So I guess you're all proving me wrong. There's no conspiracy. Damn.
Well, no. Every conspiracy has a basis in truth.
Yeah,
usually it's a bunch of things that all lead up into one. So I think, Squib disagrees with me in a sense, but I think both aspects are true. I think there's people, behind the scenes pushing things. I think there's also people just taking advantage of natural things that happen, and the combination leads us somewhere we don't like. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it isn't there, but at the same point, it's not everything you see. So I would state that too.
Yeah. The media is pushing it because they typically have worked with one side, for decades. They've worked with one side of the American political scene. So, and for them, if it bleeds, it leads. This is revenue for them. If they've got you tuned in because you're afraid of some flu virus or you're afraid you'll get shot at the mall, then you're tuning in. They're selling commercial time. Okay. So it's a twofold thing for them. The politicians, like New York Outcast said, they're not letting a good atrocity go to waste. They're taking, just like they would stand in front of something if there was a natural disaster there or something else, to say, look at me, I'm doing something, or look at me, I'm here and nobody else is, or whatever. And it doesn't matter whether they're Democrat, Republican, or independent. They all do this. They take advantage of this stuff. So that's all that's going on. And we're going to see more of it again and again. And if the news was responsible, they would wait until they had the facts before they started running their mouths, and they would do everything they could to make it where it didn't gratify the dirtbag who did this. Never show their face, never to say their name. Call them the worst names in the book. Talk about what a sissy they are, a pussy, a coward. Talk about, make fun of the fact that they're a degenerate, or they can't get a girlfriend, or can't keep a job, or whatever it is. Make these people, make anybody who wants to be just like these people not look at this as their quick path to fame. But the media doesn't do that. They boost these people up. They talk about the victims, but they've learned that they can just milk that for all it's worth too, just tugging on your heartstrings. So they bear some responsibility in perpetuating this, but they want more. They want to have 3 mass murders in a day that they can run with. That just gives them a plethora of stories. It just gives them this an ongoing resource.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right. All the facts aren't in yet. I mean, because Ozzy's saying it in here in the chat. I mean, I was reading an article that young kid, the police were called to his house last year, and they confiscated a shotgun from him and never gave it back to him. And they had him tested in a mental hospital. So how in the hell has he passed a 4473? Unless it hasn't been.
How about some irresponsible speculation, Rick? How about this? He bought whatever weapon he used at a gun show from a private owner in the parking lot, because this person was walking in with a gun that they were going to sell either to a dealer or to another owner, because this does happen at gun shows. It's not a common thing. It's not, you don't go to the gun show to look for some, another private owner. Usually you go into the tables, which some are private owners selling their collection, and some are FFLs. But you can, if you go walking into a gun show and somebody's got a gun slung over their shoulder, people, I've bought a gun, and not even before I make it out the door, I've had somebody ask me how much you want for that. Right. So he could have very well done this. And then Biden uses this to go, see, I told you they don't use background checks. I told you they buy their guns at gun shows. That's what if I'm going to have irresponsible speculation about the outcome of this, that's where they're going with it. But I don't think it's a government conspiracy. I think they're looking to try to find if this happened so they can give them exactly what they've been saying, because there's a minute possibility that sort of thing could happen. It's just so extremely rare. It just is.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But right now it's all speculation because the information is not out yet on what went down. And that's another thing. Why are we so fascinated about what gun did he use? How did he get it?
Because that's what they're going to do to try to ban something. If he used an AR-15, they're going to say, see, AR-15s are evil. If he used an AR-15 pistol, they go, see, we've been telling you these pistols, these rifle caliber pistols. If he bought it at a gun show, they're going to say, see, gun shows told you that they're evil. If he bought it from a private owner and there's no requirement for a background, see, we need universal background checks. That's why we ask. It has nothing to do with morbid curiosity or anything else. If every time one of these things happens and they try to exploit it, they look at different things and they broad brush all of us because of that. And that's why we ask.
Well, I noticed how they managed to put that one witness. Oh, it was a submachine gun, automatic.
I was just going to say that for there in Indiana, the FedEx shooting, I think that's the one I heard the witness say, oh, it was a submachine gun. I was like, submachine gun? Boy, they blew the dust off of that and pulled that out of the that phrase out of the past, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
that was used by somebody.
I sometimes wonder, what weapon was used out of curiosity. Just, I think honestly, because I'm kind of pre-programmed to know that if it's an AR or anything like that, it's going to be the evil gun, and they're going to be pushing towards more gun control because that's the pattern that's been created. So I think it's a learned response to a lot of gun owners that when we see that, you don't even really have to think about it. It's just something that pops in the mind. So I don't know. It might be on a different level or something. But that's how I kind of interpret that aspect of it.
Yeah, you're right. Now, talking about that, doing a little segue here, I think it was on Wednesday's show I mentioned it, or last week, where I was going about sanctuary counties and states and what good are they and everything else. But the more I think about it, the more, I mean, the states that want to keep the ICE away from the illegals do it. But it wasn't so much of that. But where I'm going with this is, federal gun laws, we need more states doing what they're doing. Say no, we're not going to follow them. That's simple. Why can't we? Why can't the states say we ain't going to follow them? I mean, was it 32 states now allow you to have marijuana with no problem? It's still a federal crime under the federal law, but these states are saying, no, it's fine in our state. So why can't they do that with all these gun laws? Say, no, it ain't happening. And the reason a lot of these police are always against us, always for gun control or whatever, is because the they get money from the federal government to go on these raids for the ATF and the FBI, because they don't have enough manpower themselves to do it. So they recruit the local police, and the police get funding for doing it. They don't tell you that, but it's a fact. So So I think we should push the sanctuary thing. No, you're not doing it here in this state, and enough states do it. Just like marijuana, right? It becomes a thing. More states that say we're not following that federal law on this gun control, the more states that do it, eventually that law becomes null and void. Or am I missing something here?
I think police become biased after enough time, honestly, because when you think about it, they're normally called to deal with in some cases, the shit of society on a regular basis. Most people hate them. Most people don't want nothing to do with them. So, when you, I guess, live or work in an atmosphere like that after enough time, then you probably get a little, I don't know, tainted in that sense, that you'd have to give yourself reminders of. So it wouldn't shock me that they would be in general anti-gun when you consider what they deal with on a daily basis. As far as the sanctuary thing, I think it should be kind of all or nothing. It's great that it's happening, don't get me wrong, but I think, especially people like us, YouTube guys, or anybody who makes videos, I don't know, you might do something on video the feds want to mess with you with, and when you go travel to an event, they can pick you up because you're not in that sanctuary jurisdiction anymore. And I know I'm just negative and always thinking of the worst case scenario, but it is a loophole that I'm sure we'll be taking advantage of at some point. So it's a good thing, and they're using it, so there's no reason we can't. But I just, if you're a person that travels, it's just something I keep in mind, and obviously don't be stupid about things on video anywhere.
Yeah, but I think that's a good way to. But I think if more states did it, eventually, maybe, more states do it. What I'm talking about, it'd be educating the normal people out there that, that some of these laws they got are absolutely asinine. But I don't know. I mean, because I'm still I'm still torn on the marijuana thing personally myself. I know people say it's not addictive and everything else, but you do it long enough, it's going to make you want to try something else. You drink beer long enough, you want to try something harder. Same principle, So
that depends on the person, Rick.
Yeah, I'd say that depends on the person. Even though I'm not for marijuana, it's not because I'm trying to butt into somebody else's life and control it. It's because they're telling kids this is okay. And it's because of how people abuse it. Marijuana, see, here's the thing. All the potheads get all bent out of shape when I talk. Go screw yourself. Marijuana is not in the Constitution, okay? Guns are. And you go, well, Squib, you drink. Yeah, I do. Alcohol's in the Constitution twice. So put marijuana in the Constitution, I'll shut up. But my thing is, what you want to do at home is what you want to do at home. And you know what? You can show up to work drunk, or you can show up to work on prescription drugs that a doctor gave you. He's going to tell you, don't operate heavy equipment. You operate heavy equipment. There's a lot of things that can happen. But here in Michigan, I saw what happened the day it passed, not the day it was signed into law, the day it passed. People changed and they got irresponsible with it. Now, I don't want to punish the responsible people because of the irresponsible people. I think they could have found a way to legalize it here and other places in a responsible way to promote being responsible. In the same way, I think the news media has a duty to vilify these shitbags that don't represent us. I think our government kind of has a duty to, when they're saying that we've had this is illegal. There's got to be a compromise, or there's got to be a way to do it where you don't get infringed on because all you really give a shit about is getting arrested. And we're not promoting something bad. But I don't think the government should butt in your life and say, you can't smoke cigarettes, you can't drink beer, you can't have a joint, you can't this, until it hurts someone else. And drinking and driving is illegal, right? Killing somebody with your vehicle is illegal. There's already enough things out there that are illegal. Going after the source, I don't always agree with that, because when you go after the source of one thing, you're also punishing somebody who's saying, I can do this responsibly. We own guns responsibly. They always want to go after the guns. Why do we get punished when the shitbags will always have access to guns no matter what they do to us? It's the same difference, Rick.
Yeah.
I personally, I've grown up around people that are into both. And what I can state is, the ones that smoke marijuana seem to excel much further than the ones with alcohol, as far as actually acquiring things and not paying more for insurance because they screwed up or whatever. Not stating everybody's the same, but in my opinion, I think alcohol can be worse, personally. But that's just from what I've seen. My concern about it is kids. I just don't like the fact that now legally the drug dealer can sit on the school grounds, smoke weed, and just sell it to kids on lunch. I just whether you want to do that or not, it's your own whatever. But I don't think the kids of today, some of them just don't have a drive. I mean, a lot of them don't have drive. They're not sure what they want to do. They're not sure about any goddamn thing. The last thing we need is it to be okay to just sit on your ass, smoke weed, and play video games all day. Again, that falls back to the individual, not everybody. So, but I just personally think there's a lot of kids, especially in the urban areas, that are just gonna, feed right back into the system due to this. Personally,
Yeah.
So what about
that's just me.
Well, what about not banning these things, but just not encouraging these things? Do you think that by some of the things that these politicians say, or some of these laws that the politicians pass that don't have, I guess you could say, some sort of closure to them, or some sort of realistic way to enforce, or don't make any sense, or whatever it is, do you think they're encouraging the bad behavior? And is that actually worse than trying to ban everybody's rights over a few?
You might have lost me a little bit. I think society or culture is encouraging bad behavior. When you look at the rap videos that you talked about, when you look at half these TV shows, I think, there's a difference between right and wrong and forethought and things like this. And, like, if I wish I could be on a soap opera, I would just, ditch my family, divorce my wife, leave, and go be happy, because they make all their damn problems. But I think music, society, the culture, kids running around with their ass hanging out at 14, I think our society has issues. So a different upbringing, stronger values, it wouldn't be an issue personally. But I do think in the end that they push it, to feed the system.
At what point saying that are you going to get on board with forcing it on people? You know what I mean?
Like forcing it as far as a law, like you can't do something or can. I mean,
like, I don't know. See, that's what I mean. I go back to the whole murder's already illegal, so why do we have to go to the source of murder? All right. You can have your children taken away from you if you endanger their lives. So how can they regulate or make a law about how you are supposed to parent? And then again, you go to the whole, well, don't tell me how to parent my kids because I'm not you. I'm not going to tell you how to parent your kids. So, if you go back to the upbringing as the source, how do you balance freedom and encourage, I don't know, responsibility?
Okay. Well, I would think that again is. Sorry. Do you want to? I can stop.
No, go ahead and finish. Go and finish.
I was going to say again. I think that's up to values, individual strength, wealth, or worth. I mean, I mean, all those things are wound up to the fact that if somebody was raised right, I would like to think they wouldn't abuse such things and not be able to handle their business or just completely avoid them. Now, you're always going to have somebody that's the other way. But in the general, as a whole, if society came back to better values, I think most people could get along with it just fine. Not an issue. I personally don't see a restriction why there should be a restriction on any drugs. And I know that's crazy to some people or whatever, but if you want to kill yourself, by all means, go right ahead. I don't mean to be insensitive or whatever, but if you're really going to do it, a hotline and shit isn't going to stop you anyway. Everybody else has, attention issues, things like this. The people that really do it, and I've lost people to suicide. I never saw it coming. It just happened, So I don't. A lot of this, I just think is fluff to make us feel better, the other people. I think, problems would solve themselves pretty quick and regulate themselves. But as a society, we would see that they wouldn't sugarcoat it. And your kids would be like, well, damn, I don't want to be, having a yard sale every other day and selling everything that we get. And damn, I don't want my teeth to look like that. And oh my gosh, like she was so beautiful. 6 months later, she's got pits all over her face, scratching like a fiend. Like, no, I don't want nothing to do with that. You would learn from seeing it. And, I honestly don't think it would take long.
All right. Now, before we get too carried away, we went totally off topic. Good info, good discussion there. But I want to get back to what I was trying to say. Before we got on to all the drug and the way the country's going, is doing like they did, like the states do for marijuana. Why can't we do that for guns and gun laws? Say, screw you, we're not doing it.
I think that the long term, there's a possibility that if that's done in the long term, you're going to end up with a list of states that would be willing to take it to the nth degree, and that's secede, which I'm all for. But I'm all for the sanctuary stuff. And if it's actually enforceable, if you're going to have a sheriff tell the ATF agent, get the hell out of my county or I'll throw you in jail, and he's got 50 deputies standing behind him and there's this lone agent or two agents going, crap, what do we do? I think that sends a clear message to the federal government. And the federal government can play these games where they say, we're going to cut you off. Well, the states can go right back the other way and go, we're going to cut you off too. This kind of goes down a rabbit hole that I'm not afraid to go down because I think it's probably one of the best ways to resolve some of the division in this country. And then when you have two sides that have two countries, one country is going to prosper and the other country is going to feed on itself and fall apart. And then we can buy all their land really cheap. But I think that it sends a message that we're not going to put up with this. The problem is, a long time ago, we fought a war to say that states' rights don't exist. And the side that said a state doesn't have the right to say, no, we're not going to follow what the federal government says, that side won. So exactly how do you go back on that? Without another war? I don't think we need a war to have something, but that's kind of, I mean, are you going to have one side go, we can't lose all this tax revenue, we've got to force the other side back? So I know they can play legal games and politics. You can elect one person, then you elect somebody else, and the laws go back and forth. But I think they kind of made their point a long time ago.
Yeah. But, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. 32 states now allow some form of marijuana legally. So, I mean, why can't 32 states say, we're not filling out 4473s anymore? Has the federal government got enough people to go down to every goddamn FFL of those 32 states and say, no, come on, you've got to do it? They don't have the bodies to do it. They'd have to get the police involved, but then each state or county or whatever says, no, my police ain't helping you out. But what the problem is, it comes down to funds, because the ATF or whatever saying, well, we'll give you a grant of X amount of dollars to help us, our ATF agents.
It's AFT, Rick. I got it on good authority. It's AFT.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when enough places start doing this that they want to fight back somehow? I mean, what power would they have? My thinking would be they'd start pulling dealers' licenses and things like this. So you would basically be forced to comply.
Well, I was just using those kind of examples. Maybe that wasn't a good one. But, I was just trying to come up with something off the top of my head. All right, okay, silencers. Right? Fuck the law. We're not doing it as an NFA item. We're not paying a goddamn tax. My state is going to sell them. And boom, do it and stick to your guns. I mean, that happened in Kansas or Missouri, but they let the ATF go in there and arrest the guy and didn't back him up. So, I mean, the states have got to back. If you're going to say, no, we're not following that law, and somebody breaks it or doesn't follow it, the state or the sanctuary state or the sanctuary county or whatever has to back them up. And if they don't, it ain't going to work.
Well, what happened there is the state was backing him up. He was charged in federal crimes in a federal court. And as much as we don't like it because of the feds going after our guns, at some point, the federal government has to be the ones in charge here, not the 50 states. In the general and in the long run, that's what they're there for. I know we don't like them. We love the idea of this sanctuary, that. We need to take what we can get while we can get it. But in the bottom line, if they came after everybody or they came after one person, the federal system has to prevail. It has to be on top, or we don't have a real government or society. If you have a breakdown in that, where the states ultimately forever final deal decisions foot comes down and they beat the federal government, there's a crack in the system. We just want to have we just want to be left alone. We just want our stuff and to be left alone by the federal government.
But the federal government won't leave us alone.
Here lies a different problem. You have in my mind, illegitimate government telling me that they don't like my rifle. So you'll have inherent problems there. Yes.
Yeah, but
just know that, folks.
The Constitution, right, was the Second Amendment. It was to stop the federal government from fucking with us on our weapons. And problem is, it hasn't stopped them. And also, I think we should bring. I'm going to be called a racist now. Let's bring slavery back because according to our beloved, most beloved president this country's ever seen, says. Let me finish. Says amendments are not absolute. So the 13th Amendment, which bans slavery, is not absolute. It can be changed. It can be canceled. Is that what you're telling me, Mr. President?
Technically, you could probably make an amendment you could add an amendment to bring that back, to cancel that out, I believe, but you can't just make it go away. But I'm not on board with that.
But you understand what I'm saying?
But Biden did say.
That is what he's saying. No amendment is absolute. So you can bring back
Biden
slavery.
Biden did say no amendment was absolute. Only talking about the second.
Well,
the First Amendment ain't doing very good either.
No.
Good news is federal prisons are the best ones to go to. If you ever got to go, federal's the way to go. So usually, on a military base, you get your meals. They got TVs. They wear normal clothes half the time, depending on your level. In some cases, you can even get a cell phone. So you may not be allowed to have a cell phone, but you can get a cell phone. Call people up. People send you money. It's in some cases, I think people live better there than they do outside.
Yeah. Hey, well and well armed. You ain't said a word in this conversation.
You up and butt me out. I couldn't get a word in there.
I got your package today. Thank you very much.
Good. I had it going to send it with postage, and I said I don't feel that good about it. I had to just do that swear statement. So with the ammo, I decided to pay the extra and send it FedEx.
Hey, it got here. No problem.
Good.
I was surprised it did. It came out of Evansville. It didn't come out of Indianapolis. Thank God. If it came out of Indianapolis, I might not have got it today. No. No, I shouldn't laugh over that, but I'm just saying it went to the right one for me.
Well, good.
Yeah. So anyway, what about this conversation we're having here? What's your input?
Yeah, I was also going to think about the other guy, the guy in South Carolina that pushed the guy walking around in his neighborhood and threatening his wife and touched his wife and all that stuff. And now he's the bad guy. And this is the first Sergeant First Class drill sergeant out of Columbia, South Carolina. I think he's at whatever Army base that is. But he, I don't think that's the whole video. I think he's at Fort Jackson, and I don't think they cut. I think they cut the video off, before and after, and it doesn't show the whole picture. It seems like, they're both talking about something that happened before the video started, and this guy's life is getting ruined. His house is getting vandalized. Black Lives Matters is there all over it, and it seems like that little guy. I don't see any crime. I mean, he did push him, but he did jerk toward his wife, and you got a right to protect your wife.
Yeah.
Rob, your camera's on.
Oh, he's got his camera on?
Oh, he knew it.
Oh, I didn't. He was hiding behind my chat window, so I didn't see what he was showing.
What, a dog or something?
Just getting bugged by the cat over here.
Oh, okay. I see it now. I closed my chat for a second here. All right. Yeah. So, all right. But what?
And the other thing was when the federal government was pushing every state to raise the drinking age from 18 to 21. Louisiana was the holdout because Mardi Gras would be a major loss for them if they had to increase the drinking age from 18 to 21. So they didn't do it till I believe 89 or 90, where most of the other states phased it in 84 and 85, and they were about 5 years behind. But they completely cut off their road funds, where they just had to suck it up and raise the drinking age in Louisiana. And even then, they didn't enforce it for a couple of years, and they started holding the road funds up again until they started enforcing it. So then Louisiana started doing drive-through, cocktails and stuff like that. And I think they still do that. You could get a 32-ounce margarita to go, on the side of a liquor store.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Why don't you look at it from the other perspective? Let's say the federal government said, we're not dealing with the Second Amendment anymore at a federal level. It's up to each state. You want to be a sanctuary state? You don't want to have NFA, 4473s, whatever. Do what you want. Or if you want to say guns are illegal, do what you want. Now you're living in Indiana and you're trying to drive to Iowa and you're going to drive through Illinois. Indiana says, hey, have at it. Shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. Iowa says the same thing, but Illinois says nobody can have guns. Now you've got to drive down to Kentucky, through Arkansas, up through Kansas to get to Iowa. You can't drive directly through, because if something were to happen and you got stopped in Illinois, you would get arrested and you would have to get extradited out of the state. Or you could go, well, fine, I don't care about that. Yeah, I'll drive all the way around. I'll inconvenience myself. That way shall not be infringed, right? Well, what if there was a string of states that you couldn't drive through? You actually almost made a wall, right? Went right across the country. It said guns are illegal. On the other side of our border, you can do whatever you want. On that side of the border, but here you can't, and there's no way to drive through. So you go, well, I'll fly. And during the flight, they have an in-flight emergency, and you've got to land in Chicago because that's the nearest safe airport to land. And now when you land, they check everybody, and you can still carry on this airplane because, hey, you left in a free state where there are no laws, but now you just landed in this state where you're a felon, and everybody gets searched, and now you're getting hauled away to jail because of that. So in a way, we need the federal government there to hold together the Second Amendment so that it means something. That's why national reciprocity is so important. That's why FOPA, despite the fact that some states fail to recognize it and the government needs to enforce that, to go, FOPA exists for a reason. FOPA is a good thing. FOPA should protect you and that sort of thing. So there's got to be a way where we can balance it out, where we have states' rights, but the federal government is there to regulate stuff, and regulate might not even be the standardize. How's that? Standardize certain things. Like $1 is worth $1, or $1 is good anywhere in the country, or your driver's license is good anywhere in the country, or your concealed carry permit is good anywhere in the country, or the definition of this is this, or something like that. The government should be there for standards, I think, more so. But you got to be careful, because if you have it too much one way, you're going to have such a variance that what you do, and you might go, well, I don't give a damn. I'll never leave Indiana again. Great. Now you're trapped in Indiana. There are some of us who like to go places. So there's no, I think, one absolute way.
Hey, I'll drive the long way around now before I go through Illinois. Anyway.
And see, last time I drove through Illinois with firearms, I had the ammunition in the trunk, or in the bed of the truck, and I had the firearms unloaded in the back floorboards, the back seat floors. And I had some people tell me, are you crazy? I refueled in Joliet, right there south of Chicago. It was a pretty scummy neighborhood too. I didn't even care. I got FOPA protecting me. And if they want to arrest me for that because of their bullshit state laws, I'll hire the best lawyers I can, and I'll take it all the way to federal court. That's what these things are there for. That's
what that woman did in that's what that woman did in
New
Jersey.
No, her situation was different. She wasn't driving from point A to point B, having to cross through. She was using it as a shortcut. It was a different. I'm not saying that what they did was right. This whole thing about you can't have hollow points, that's different. She was commuting. She wasn't driving. I was going from Michigan to Wyoming, and I had to drive through Illinois. FOPA will protect me if I'm passing through. She wasn't really passing through as much as this is part of her regular daily commute, or she made a wrong turn. So there's ways you could argue that. You've got to, when you're trying to deal with these people, you've got to try to put yourself on the other side. How do I quantify this, whether I agree with it or not? And you could say, well, that's just another form of devil's advocate, barf. But that's how you win a debate, is you're able to look at it from both sides. And if you can look at it from the other side and still quantify your side, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, you got a good point. You got a good point. But right,
if you drive down to Deb's Diner and back, your FOPA doesn't protect you. Okay.
Okay.
But if you drove up here to Michigan to, I don't know, go to the rally in Lansing and drove back down to Indiana, FOPA protects you. That's the difference.
Yeah. But right now, I would drive around Illinois to get to you. Somehow. I haven't figured out how, but if I had to go, I will not go into Illinois unless no other way.
I've driven through with guns, but
You know?
I didn't even stop for gas, so it's good favor to me.
I mean, like when
I made sure I was full on the other side.
Like when I left Rhode Island, right? I went out of my way for the shortest route for I could get across the state of New York. It was 125 miles. That was I drove about an hour out of my way to get to that part of Connecticut where I could go across New York into is it Pennsylvania? You know, it was 125 miles. That was the shortest distance. I could have crossed the state line and made it gone further in New York and actually made the trip shorter. But I chose to go the long way around, where I had less chance of being pulled over in New York.
Hey, I got one for you. I drove through Indiana, Illinois, stayed the night in Illinois, drove through Missouri, through Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, into Arizona, armed with a Browning high power in me and in my pocket next to me, driving the whole way. Don't have a CCW permit. Didn't know you had to have one. Didn't know a single law about any state that I wasn't allowed to drive through with a gun or locked up or anything. Had not even a clue such laws existed different from state to state.
Yeah, FOPA wouldn't protect you there.
No. Now, when you were talking about,
honestly, had not a single clue that there was any law against it.
Yeah. Now, you know, like you're talking about flying. Right now, you have to hand your gun over, or it's got to be locked in a case inside your, check-in luggage. Right now, for argument's sake, when I flew from Rhode Island to Florida, that's what I did. If for some unknown reason there was an emergency stop in New Jersey or one of those states there, I would not have claimed my luggage.
But that's where FOPA is supposed to protect you.
But those states don't honor it.
Right. And that's why the federal government should come in there and be like, okay, look, we've threatened to take away your money if you don't deal with these laws. We're also going to take away your money if you don't deal with these other laws. And that's a failure on the federal government. What they do is they pick and choose what they want to dangle over states to get that federal money. And they should make it across the board with everything.
Yeah, but didn't California take the federal government under Trump to court because he threatened to stop their money because of the sanctuary city bullshit?
It's the same difference, though. It's a hypocrisy. We're going to fight the federal government because they don't want to give us money for our sanctuary cities, but we're also not going to recognize FOPA. No, you can't have it both ways. I mean, they do, but you're not supposed to.
Yeah, but see, in the ideal word, you're correct. But unfortunately, it's not. So maybe the other way.
That's why I say get a damn good lawyer Get a damn good lawyer and use FOPA. And you're going to, I'm not saying do this on purpose so that you can be the guinea pig. But if this were to happen, get a damn good lawyer or a team of lawyers. And when it's all said and done, everybody's going to make a lot of money, and you're going to set a precedent where FOPA has to be honored.
Well, what they do is they drop that case, just like it happened in California, where the guy was selling AR lowers without finished AR lowers, and they came down on him, and he said, "Look, it doesn't fit, doesn't fit the definition of a firearm, that AR, because the barrel doesn't screw into it, and there were two other reasons why, and so." The ATF dropped all charges, so that's a pretty weak one. So they're actually now talking about that happened in 2019 when they dropped that. They're actually now talking about redefining, how a firearm is, and think it, numbering the upper might be a better way than the lower, because the upper would be more difficult to make.
Yeah, I'm taking out in the chat here. I'm taking. Ozzy Osbourne lives in Illinois. He's saying, "Sorry, folks. I know it sucks. We are fighting to make it better." Yeah, I mean, but Illinois is another place like California. Majority of the state, like there is more Republicans in California than there is most other states.
Bullshit.
No, there is, but there's more Democrats that outnumber them. And like Illinois, I mean, besides the big city, right, most of the state is Republican, or they like guns, but because the big city, the amount of people, the millions of people that live in the city and vote Democrat outvote the Republicans every time. Just the way it is. So.
I like guns.
I like guns, but you live, yeah. And you see, you live in New York, right? Now, and
there's a lot of gun-loving people around here too, but unfortunately, New York City apparently outvotes us all.
That's what I was just saying. New York's the same thing. There's a lot of gun-loving people in New York out there, but as you said, the New York City and the big cities outvote you every time. Because the amount of bodies. So
I don't believe it, but they do.
Yeah.
Well, besides Bald and Curious and you, who else is there that is a YouTuber from New York? 1776 Buzz left.
There's a few. There's a bunch of New York preppers out there, in a sense, that are also into firearms.
I know one.
Personally,
blind shooters into firearms, and he's actually in New York City.
I personally don't know a lot of people in my area that conceal carry. I can, count them on one hand. But, even growing up here, for most people, don't even think it's a possibility. Like, I still argue with people about it. You got to be a cop. You're either a cop or a criminal. That's just all there is to it in their mind. So, but there's a lot of people that are in, long guns, all that. I mean, people would be surprised at what's sitting in New York just stashed away. In some cases, I'm sure it's the same as just about everywhere else. Just unfortunately, they can't be as vocal in some cases, or choose not to in others, which is sad, because like the SAFE Act in Albany, when that was all involved, we had like no representation, basically. Pretty much, which was pretty sad. I mean, there was small groups, but it was all divided. There was people. It's where I met my first Oath Keeper guy, and by first look, I would have thought he was there to, represent marijuana, because he had more marijuana patches than anything else, and I just didn't think we weren't clearly represented, in my opinion, and that falls back to the people. So they should have got off their ass.
Yeah. No, anyway, it's I still think, though, I understand where you're coming from there, Squib, but right now, I think that to get the federal government's attention, maybe these states need to say, screw you, we're not following your laws for now. Until you start doing your part. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm coming up with an idea. I'm not saying it's good, but at least I'm coming up with an idea, to fix it. I'm trying to come up with a solution. I don't know if it's the correct solution, but I'm coming up with one.
Well, you pointed out something good there where you were saying they don't have enough agents to hit every FFL, et cetera, et cetera. And you got to think about it. Same thing with weed. All right. The federal government does not have enough manpower and cannot count on deputizing enough local law enforcement who may or may not want to cooperate, whether it be a budget reason or just because they don't agree, to go in and shut down every dispensary, every search every house for people who may have, or, go through the list of people with cards or whatever to figure out who they want to go after. They just don't have the man. Well, the same thing could be said about firearms. Somebody, I read in a comment, somebody had on a budget/show about what are they going to do with people who bought a high capacity, I think she meant standard capacity, by the way, magazine. Say, for example, somebody who bought one today, what are they going to do with them? Well, I can tell you what they're going to do with them. They're going to grandfather it in because they have no way to enforce it. Now, they might say they might ban standard capacity magazines, in which case, if you're out in public with one, yeah, you're asking to get arrested. Okay, that's just stupid. And if you want to be stupid, be stupid. But they're not going to be kicking in the door of every house going, where are the mags? Where are the mags? Where are the mags? More than likely, though, they'll grandfather something like that in because that's what they've done in the past. There's too many of them out there to enforce it. And when they grandfather things in, they also divide us to where some people go, screw it, I got mine, and they're out, right? And then the other people go, no, grandfathering's not good enough. It's kind of the same thing with guns. They just don't have the manpower to do it. So they're going to find ways to do it a little at a time or to placate a certain amount of people or do whatever. So the reason they throw so much at the wall is to see what's going to stick this time. And every time something sticks. And each time, eventually they'll have the wall covered. So I think that we shouldn't be lazy, but we shouldn't be afraid either. They're not going to kick your door in tomorrow night.
But you should have a contingency plan just in case they might.
Sure.
Well, I mean, where I'm going with this, there's like the old boys down the diner. We're all old and fat and lazy. Well, not lazy. Some of them are workers, but we're all old and fat.
No, you're lazy.
Most of us are either retired, on Social Security and shit. But we have got together and we've got a couple of this logistics that where if something happened, where we could go to put up a defense. That's all I'm going to say. We've got it worked out.
That's cool.
Okay.
I doubt if it's ever going to come to it, but you got to have that plan. Why do people prep? Why do you have preppers?
Prepping isn't just about the government taking over.
But
okay, Rick. So here's the thing. In one way, you're in a good position because you're out where they're probably never going to go down there just because it's so rural and really nobody gives a crap, right? Yeah. You're also in the worst place because you guys are going to hold up at somebody's farm and that's what they're going to drop a bomb on with an F-15. Okay. Now, same scenario here. I'm in the suburbs. Okay. I don't have a farm to go to hold up to with 50 other good old boys. So it's a house-to-house thing here. But because it's a house-to-house thing, they can't fly in with an F-15 and drop one bomb. So we are both in the best and worst locations. It's how you exploit your strengths and try to deal with or overcome your weaknesses is how you're going to make it through. Okay? Because there's all these people like, they'll just fly in with a B-52 and what? Level the entire city, including the people that voted for them? No, they're not going to level a city. On the other hand, I live out in the country. I'm perfectly safe. You stick out like a sore thumb. So there's no real one right scenario. There's no real one. If there's ever some sort of situation where the government takes over, you're going to see a lot of division in law enforcement, the military, the government itself. You're going to see division in people. You're just going to see, it's going to be chaos. If you really think about it, your biggest issue is any sort of health care that you need. That's going to take you out before the government does.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
small organized cells have been a problem throughout history up to this day. Yeah. It's all about how you do things. I agree with both of you guys. There's pros and cons, and Squib did a great job pointing that out. But there is that middle ground where it's given the best militaries of the world issues up to this day. So it all depends how you play the game.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, because like even if I was big into prepping, my medication that I need to stay alive, I can't get 8 or 9 months supply. The law won't allow the doctor to give me that. You know what I'm saying? The most I can get is 3 months at a time.
So you got a list of the distribution warehouses near you, Rick? In case the shit hits the fan or you instantly are deemed a criminal and had no other choice? They're usually lightly guarded.
Listen to this guy.
You know,
hey, you guys have heard of Joel Skelton, right? I'm sure you guys have heard of that guy. Strategic relocation and things like that. Okay, well, you mentioned Prepper earlier. If you haven't heard of it, look into it. Some good info on some things. But you can take that much, much further. And, you know, I suggest everybody has a good map of your local needs for modern times and for just in case.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the Lockpick Lawyer and some of those channels like that? There's a Rogue channel. There's a couple of these Lockpick. It's pretty interesting. Has anybody ever looked at it? Anybody bought any Lockpick tools?
No.
2 jumbo paper clips is really 1 or 2 jumbo paper clips is all you need.
Yeah.
I have. I mean, I've got pretty good lockpick toolkit, and it's pretty interesting, you know, be able to pick those locks.
Yeah.
Should a time come, you know, I've got like the round key, you know, can hit up vending machines or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, locksmiths learn how to pick locks. You know,
in some cases, you can buy master keys online for a lot of different products, or find out the codes that just unlock a lot of the modern machines. I know, don't use that badly. I'm not trying to put that out there, but that information is already out there.
I want my little black case I can pull out my inside pocket and pick the locks with. That's what I need.
I got one.
You know. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, medicine, if even if it's not, you know, shit hits the fan, but even if a major disaster happens, medicine will take me out before anything else will. You know, is most I can have at one time is 3 months. After that, I'm screwed. So there we go. I don't know how long I could live with, you know.
Can't the cats destroy some, Rick? And then you could request a little extra, and then you could plan a vacation, and then things get canceled last minute due to COVID or some bullshit, and then you have vacation supply too, and then wait a little while and repeat.
Well, you know, like my test.
There's always ways around things.
Like my test strips that I get to check my sugar level. He gives me enough to check it 5 times a day. Right? I don't check it nowhere near that many times. So I'm backed up on thing. I've also learned to my gabapentin I have for my bad back, right? I'm meant to take it 4 or 5 times a day. I miss one of those out nowadays. So I do have a backup of those, believe it or not. You know? So you miss taking out of, say you got to take 4 and you only take 3, 30 days, you got a 30-day supply, haven't you?
Well, what is that medication for your back?
It's a painkiller.
Okay.
It was actually,
So say when it comes to like antibiotics or anything like that,
it was originally designed. It was I say designed. It was originally made, invented, or whatever the word is used for people with epilepsy. Basically, what it does, it blocks the receptors in my brain so they don't feel the pain.
Are you dating these that you're storing?
Right.
Keeping dates in mind, because a lot of medications, dates do have an effect.
Dates? Did you say dates? Yes, I rotate.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
just
I rotate.
Pointing it out. Some people don't realize, but it doesn't last forever with some medications, especially when they mix it to put it into a pill form in some cases. So the potency does weaken.
Yeah. I did a video on fish antibiotics because being a quadriplegic, I do get urinary tract infections on a regular basis. So I take the amoxicillin, ampicillin, and Cipro. Those throughout the year. I always have at least one of those prescribed to me a year. So I went and got all the for the fish, the amoxicillin. It's called Fish Mox. For the Cipro, it's called Fish Pro or something. And then anyway, I've got about 4 different fish antibiotics, and I've got a nursing guide on which one to take for which symptoms. So, so highly recommend having a backup.
Capsules to make your own pills too, if you really get into it.
Yeah, well, they actually come in the exact same size. I mean, fish aren't taking human size.
Okay, so
pills.
you got the pills in.
Yeah, they make them in exact same size pills that I get.
And I'm assuming you research brand because there's a difference and some's not safe.
Thomas brands are safe. Thomas Labs, and that's the one I always get. And there's probably about.
I don't know off the top of my head, but just so you know what I mean. There is some of the brands aren't recommended.
You can't buy at Thomas Brands.
What I was getting into was doing the old-fashioned herbal stuff, what nature provides. See what they have out there for what I ail with,
I always recommend that, but unfortunately, people are too lazy to change their daily habits. Because in most cases, lifestyle, diet will address a lot of common issues that the average person just takes a pill for now, and then another pill for that pill, and then blah blah.
New York, would a salad a day help, Rick?
Salad a day?
Damn sure would.
Damn
sure would.
Yeah, with chunks of cheese in it. And I reckon a bowl of macaroni and cheese at least once a week would help too. So
it sure can.
Yeah. I bought some fried chicken yesterday. And I got it in my fridge. I love cold fried chicken. I've got some fried chicken in my fridge, and that's what I'm having as soon as I sign out of here. After I feed the cats, of course. Then I'm going to sit down and eat my fried chicken, and they're going to sit in front of me looking at me the whole time I'm eating it because they want some. They like chicken too. So, so that's what I'm having for dinner today. Fried chicken. I know it ain't good for me, but the hell with it. I'm going to have it. Because I can. So, there we go. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
I just said there's a lot of good books out there to look into for natural remedies and stuff.
Oh yeah,
my ladies used a few of these on me in a sense, and
that's what I was saying.
they tend to work.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a cheap bastard that everybody knows.
a lot of these natural remedies is how they started. Then they just started manufacturing, man-made products and replaced.
A lot of the
replaced it.
man-made come from them, but
Yeah,
they've
originally, yeah.
altered in some slight way to put a patent on it so they can sell it.
Yeah,
And, prevent other people from selling it. So there's
That's
a lot
something
of
I was
stuff
gonna
you can
look
grow
into.
right in your windowsill that's helpful.
That's what I was going to look into, the natural remedies for some of my ailments. So see what we can do. But you're right. More than likely, like if I exercise and diet and lost, a couple of 100 pounds, I can more likely keep my diabetes under control without medication. You know what I'm saying? And I would imagine that would also help with the high blood pressure too. That he says I have.
Better to start now, though.
I mean,
because everything in moderation, especially with if you are on medications, things like that, don't just stop. In some cases, you may have to slowly decrease and try, go along your natural way or this or that, but keep a good eye on it. Sometimes the doctors don't like it when you tell them you're doing something different, and I don't know if that falls back to just they don't really have the knowledge on it or control over it. But if it works a lot of time, they'll tell you to stick with it. So just be cautious, moderation, and smart about things.
Yeah. You're right. Anyway, we're going to wind this down because we're running out of topics here. So, New York Outcast, you got any shout-outs or plugs?
No, just thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Oh, and I just wanted to mention to you, I still haven't got a stand for my AR yet.
Yeah, I didn't see any orders lately. I don't know what's going on. We'll talk.
Yeah. Hey, Jason, you got any shout-outs or plugs?
No, hopefully I can do a show this Monday night. And appreciate the invite. It's good talking with you.
Good having you here. Squib, any shout-outs or plugs?
Yeah, glad the show's over. I need to go shoot a couple of cocktails with Squib videos.
Okay. I'm glad you're here. You always bring some good goddamn points in conversation. You really do. All right. Will and Will Armed, you got any plugs or shout-outs?
Yeah, I just did top 5 top 5 steel frame pistols yesterday, and ended up doing a +1, and that was a video challenge, and so I sent that out to a couple other channels, and hopefully they'll respond. And then this Wednesday, I'm gonna only be half on your show. I got invited to be on Big Johnson's Guns and Gear as his guest speaker this Wednesday, so. That starts at 8 o'clock.
Good luck. That's what I say.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. I will. Okay. Let's see. For everybody in the, got everybody there because. All right. Everybody who stuck with me in the chat, I appreciate you being here. I really do. Oh, the quiz for next Saturday. What I want to know in the Man with No Name Westerns. There's 3 of them. I want, besides the main star, Clint Eastwood, I want to know how many actors were in all 3 movies. I want how many and their names. That's email me at rickslife@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. Get it into me by 12 o'clock next Saturday. You're in for the swag pack. So there we go. I mailed out a bunch of stuff. I don't know if the winners got it yet, but I did mail it out. And Sabrina, I haven't done yours yet. If you're in the chat, I haven't forgotten. I just got to locate that pack of cards. I know it's here. I saw it a couple of weeks ago, but God knows where I saw it at. It's in this room somewhere. So as soon as I find it, I will get it in the mail to you, plus with some patches as well. Oh, Patriot in the Dark said, I figured you would have canceled the show to watch old Prince Edward's little cast-off. And it was Prince Philip, by the way. The Duke of Edinburgh, I believe, was his title. So, no, I didn't stop it because of him, you know. So there you go. Now I might have canceled it if it was the Queen, you know. But
Long live the Queen.
You know. So yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it, but I saw a picture of inside the church, the Queen sitting all by herself. It's part of the ritual of when somebody like that dies, the Queen sits by herself, you know, and this kind of shit. I can't remember. It's all pageantry bullshit, you know. But it's sad. I mean, so it is. I mean, it's sad because, like, you know, they've been married, what, 70 odd years? I mean, and she's been the Queen for almost as long as she's been married. I mean, the longest reigning monarch ever in the United Kingdom. I mean, and basically, I mean, I'm in my 60s, and she's all I've ever known as the Queen of England. You know what I'm saying? So, and he was her husband. So it's kind of strange, you know?
You live in America now. You don't have to worry about that shit.
That's right. I'm an American, and I got my Second Amendment. And according to Piers Morgan, I love my guns, you son of a bitch. So, all right, everybody. I want to say thank you for being here and putting up with us for the last hour and a half. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back on Wednesday night with Shooting with Disabilities at 7 p.m. Eastern, the only time zone that matters. So I'll say good night, good afternoon to everybody. Have a good one. All right. Good night, Sabrina.